Matthew chapter number 12, verse number 41. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonas. And behold, a greater than Jonas is here. We can see in verse number 41 where Christ was just being frank and plain with the men that he was talking to. We can find earlier they asked him for a sign, and like we stated before, if we go up, this whole conversation stemmed from when he healed a demonic that was blind and unable to speak. And in the previous chapter, it was talking about how he healed the sick, raised the dead, and did all kind of miracles. But that still did not seem to satisfy them. And in verse number 41, he was just frank with them. In verse 40, he talks about the only sign he was going to give them was the sign of Jonah. As Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, he would be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And he was saying, those guys repented at Jonas. And you have somebody here greater than Jonas. The story of Jonah is an interesting one. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh, but we can see from the map, Jonah went the complete, or was trying to go in the complete opposite direction of Nineveh. He was trying to go on the western side of the Mediterranean. With Nineveh, he would have to cross over to the eastern side. So we can see Jonah Jonah was trying to get away. And here's another map. And after you would have arrived on the east side of the Mediterranean, then there were several hundred miles to go all the way up past the Euphrates River, up here, the Tigris River. And here's a map. Here's this modern day Baghdad as we know it. And Nineveh would have been to the north, right underneath Turkey, as we can see, over by Mosul. So just to give us some type of idea of where we're talking about geographically. And if we come over here, we can see Jonah preached to the men of Nineveh. There was not a love for the Assyrian nation. They had been enemies with the Israeli people. So I'm sure Jonah probably preached to them with a passion. Almost, if I could imagine, yeah, you guys are going to get it. God is going to destroy this place. Now, you've afflicted Israel for so long, you are going to get it. And I'm sure Jonah preached the fear of God in them. He preached so mercilessly. And that's what God wanted, because the fear of God did come into them and they repented. But Christ was saying Jonah didn't work a single miracle. Jonah didn't open a blind eye. Jonah didn't cast the devil out. Jonah didn't raise anyone from the dead. Yet they repented. And now you're asking for a sign, and I've given you all of these signs. Plus, I've preached like no other one have preached before, and you still don't believe. You can see why Christ made this statement. In judgment, they will be condemned by the men of Nineveh, because they will tell them, look, we repented at Jonah, but you had God himself in the flesh and snubbed him. God, we bless you and we praise you and we thank you. Help us to hear you. Help us to obey you.